of my youngest childhood memories. So, I remember standing outside with my father, and he was pointing to the sky, and noted that every one of those stars in the sky, the sun, or pretty much, and has planets around them, and there could be somebody staring back at you, and that kind of scale of the vastness and the unknown is really what captivated me.
That's inspiring. So you launched 2 different rockets from 2 different hemispheres in one weekend. How significant accomplishment was that?
Yeah, well, look, launching rockets in quick succession has become somewhat normalised, but I don't think anybody's done it from under 24 hours in 2 hemispheres. From either side of the planet in short succession. So no, it was a great milestone, and they were completely unrelated missions. It's just we've got a bunch of customers and we're busy, and we just had to light up 2 launch pads and let it go.
Just keeping your head down and grinding. I love it. So I see Owl the Way Up. What's next? What's in store on December 18th?
Yeah, so this is a customer, it's one of our largest, constellation customers, a customer out of Japan. We actually signed a deal with them earlier this year for a 10 launch block buy, and this is just making good on that. So this is a synthetic aperture radar constellation, we've launched them, I think, 5 times already previous to this. So, a great customer.
Who's your biggest customer?
So our customer base basically kind of bisects into 50% government and 50% commercial. So we do a lot of work for the US government on a number of programs, both national security and civil, so a number of missions for NASA. And then commercial customers range quite frankly from the big blue chip primes, defence primes that you would expect, right through to, I think, one of my favourite missions was we launched a little 1U CubeSat for California and Irvine high school students. So really a pretty broad spectrum.
It is indeed, and you've arguably blown by giants like Lockheed Martin, even Boeing. What's allowed for that, do you think, and how, big picture, have you done things differently than others?
Yeah, well, I think, look, launch is always a thing that everybody gets excited about, right? It's the big fiery stick roaring to the sky. But actually, 2/3 of our business is our space systems business, which is, that's building satellites and infrastructure on orbit. So the one thing that makes Rocket Lab a little bit different is, we've obviously talked a lot about the rockets, but we're an end-to-end space company. So what that means is a customer can come to us and say, hey, I want this thing, this communication or this Earth observation thing from orbit. And we're one of the very few companies that can design the satellite, use all the company's own components to build the satellite, and then once it's built, launch it on our own rocket. And then once it's in orbit, actually operate it for our customer to just provide data. So, you think about the traditional way you go to space is you have to become an expert in orbital dynamics and build a spacecraft and then procure launch and then, be an expert in operating spacecraft in orbit. Well, we just don't think that's the way of the future. So we've created this kind of end-to-end solution here where, we're like the one-stop shop for space.
And what is your ultimate goal here with Rocket Lab?
Yeah, well, if you look at the space industry, you can think about it in 3 different pillars. So you have launch, which is, really, really critical, and that's about a, $10–20 billion TAM. Then you have, space systems or satellites or the infrastructure, that's $20–30 billion TAM. And then you have applications, and that's a $320 billion TAM. Applications being all of the things that you do from space. So, for example, all the services that come from space. And ultimately, what we're trying to do is position ourselves to provide those services, because obviously that's much larger market opportunity. But it's pretty disruptive when you have the ability to build your own satellite and launch it well. The time frame and the cost that you can build those infrastructure plays in is just far shortened. So it becomes very competitive at that point.
As inspiring as a rocket launch is and space is, what are those applications you're referencing? So many people wonder, why are we spending so much money on space? So practically speaking, what are those things we hope to accomplish?
Look, that's a great question, and I think space is hidden infrastructure. So, apart from a little dot that might streak across the sky, you really don't see it. But the reality is, we use space in our everyday lives all of the time. If you turn off GPS, your pizza doesn't turn up even. So, it's tremendously integrated into our everyday lives. But I think, what's been really exciting for me to watch over the last sort of, 5 years or so, 5 to 10 years, is that a lot of, companies that are not natural owners of space infrastructure are becoming that. You think about the Amazon Kuiper constellation to provide internet down on Earth. You think of Apple's satellite-enabled iPhones now, direct-to-mobile communications. Starlink is another great example. I mean, is SpaceX now still a space company, or is it a telecommunications company? And I think that really proves the power of having the ability to build a satellite and then launch it by yourself. Is that it becomes blurry whether or not you're a space company or a telecommunications company or an application company. And I think honestly that is what all of the big space companies of the future are going to look like.
Interesting. Is space tourism a part of your ultimate model? And do you think there will come a point in time, 20, 30, 40, 50, 80 years from now, that people could live in space?
Yeah, look, it's not currently part of our current trajectory. In saying that, the Neutron rocket that we're developing right now, which is our medium-class launch vehicle, is human flight capable. But right now, if I look across, there's really one customer, being NASA, and there's 1.5 really good providers of human spaceflight in the US. So it's kind of a limited market and a well-served market today. But I definitely think that in the future, as more things kind of occur in low Earth orbit, obviously the space station is predicted to become a commercial kind of venture at some point. Then there'll be a lot more destinations and a lot more customers for space tourism, and I think it become a real market. But right now it's a very constrained market, really, with one government customer.
Yeah, Boeing has had several stumbles in this space. Do you believe they'll exit?
Oh, I have no idea. I'm worried about Rocket Lab. I'm not worried about their business.
Yeah, and I'm at the New York Stock Exchange, so I'd be remiss if I didn't ask about your stock prices, which has also been a relative rocket ship, more than 300% increase this year alone. Still more room to run? Is this a good time to invest in Rocket Lab?
Yeah, look, I mean, I think part of that is we just quietly execute, and within the space industry, it's fair to say that a number of companies came public and didn't exceed or didn't do well, and we just quietly execute and meet our numbers and continue to grow significantly year on year, and the shareholders are getting rewarded for their patience in us in that respect. But I would say that if we really look at SpaceX as our biggest competitor, right? And they're clearly the leader within the industry. Their valuation is somewhere between $250 and $350 billion. Rocket Lab's valuation is less than 4% of that, and as those two companies start to look less and less dissimilar, then I think you would expect us to valuations to probably track the delta as well.
Can you justify anything near a $300 billion valuation for SpaceX?
Well, look, I mean, SpaceX is, it's not a public company, so I don't think anybody really knows the numbers in the books, but yeah, clearly they've been very successful and continue to raise capital at ever increasing valuations, and look, created a very, very high value. And if you think about how many companies have access to space on a frequent basis, and right now, obviously SpaceX are the leaders. It goes, SpaceX launches the most amount of rockets to space, then it's China, then it's Rocket Lab, then it's Russia, then it's Europe. So, it's a very, very constrained capability and a very, very, unique and in-demand capability.
And regarding SpaceX, how concerned are you about Elon Musk's relationship with President Trump, the possibility that he'll use that influence to box out companies whom SpaceX compete with, namely Rocket Lab?
Not really at all. I mean, look, I think there's enough checks and balances in there, and this is at the end of the day, that is democracy. So I don't think there'd be too much tolerance for any funny business by anybody. And you know, I think the things that Elon stands for are the things that are great for the industry. You know, much more efficiency and you know, much more commercial kind of capture of the opportunities to drive down costs and increase capabilities. These are all the things that will, you know, that we stand for also. So look, I'd be very surprised to see any funny business there for sure.
What has Elon meant to the private space race?
Oh, make no mistake. I mean, he's ploughed the path, right? You know, it was at the beginning, you know, a few very, you know, large kind of primes that really, you know, command any price, and it was a very kind of government-focused, uncommercialized industry. So I think SpaceX has really you know, led the way in that respect, and you know, tremendous credit to Elon and the team over there. And look, we're just drafting him behind, and hopefully we can be number second.
Pete, I got to take at least a minute, because what you've done is so inspiring, to ask you best business advice you either learned from someone, or the best business advice you offer to others who are starting a new business, trying to reach a goal similar to what you're doing.
Well, I mean, it's going to sound incredibly elementary, but really make sure that the product you want to build is the product people want. And I know that sounds crazy, but in the space industry, I've seen so many companies where, you know, us space guys are often technologists, right? So we get all wound up in the technology and develop the coolest thing. And, you know, a lot of companies have developed really cool stuff and really cool technology, but nobody cares. Like, there's no market for it. And you often find where, you know, people are trying to, you know, force technology and kind of create markets as a result of their technology rather than actually solve problems. And I think that's part of the reason why we've been successful, is we're very commercial, and we focus very deeply on where are the market opportunities and go after them just absolutely religiously.
Love that. And finally, you've described your mindset as a, quote, healthy paranoia. How does that guide you? And what are your thoughts as related to failure?
Yeah, well, I think in this industry, you have to be paranoid about failure, because it's like everything is either perfect or, you know, it's international news. So that there is no middle kind of outcome here. So as a result, you know, you just have to be over everything all of the time, and be very respectful of the energy that you're dealing with, and you know, the product, the complexity of the product. And you know, I think if you take a "she'll be right" kind of attitude to the space industry, you end up on the wrong side of history.
Love that. Sir Peter Beck, CEO, founder of aerospace company Rocket Lab in Auckland, New Zealand. Really appreciate the time. Look forward to coming out and catching a launch. The Cheddar team would love to be there for one.
Love to have you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your time, Pete.
See ya.